So it's been a very interesting year for dramatic murder / missing people thrillers. We've had The Mayor of Easttown and Cruel Summer, both of which made it onto my best of the year so far. Both of those were aimed at very different demographics and had very different quality levels, but I still had a blast with both of them for different reasons. And recently Netflix hopped into the mix with Clickbait, which definitely feels at home more thematically with Mayor of Easttown, but tonally and execution-wise with Cruel Summer. Like, I would never expect this show to be nominated for awards the way that The Mayor of Easttown has been. I also liked it less than both of the aforementioned shows. Like, Cruel Summer steers very hard into like the coming of age side of things, which will make a lot of people like completely disinterested, but it's like right up my alley. But Clickbait is definitely one of those shows that's gonna keep people clicking onto the next episode just to see where the hell they're gonna take it. When Nick Brewer, loving father and devoted husband, turns up in a viral video stating he'll be killed once the video reaches 5 million views, those closest to him are stuck trying to weave through the web of what led to his abduction. Before we hop into today's video, we gotta hop into today's sponsor that can teach you how to clickbait like a pro, Skillshare. Or just develop strong skills for your YouTube success naturally. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers thousands of classes on a variety of topics from film, freelancing, music, productivity, marketing, writing, design, and more. That means that you can take classes from people that are infinitely more successful than I'll ever be, like MKBHD, to learn the best ways to set yourself up for success. I personally love all the classes by fellow YouTubers Thomas Frank and Ali Abdal, specifically Frank's Productivity for Creatives that's helping me develop a better physical and digital workspace. So if you're someone looking to learn new skills, start a YouTube channel, or just build on the knowledge you already have, Skillshare has a variety of beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes in a variety of topics like design, branding, editing, lifestyle, marketing, and more that will help you every step of the way. They're constantly launching new premium classes so you can explore your creativity wherever it takes you. And right now, Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 people that click the link in the description below a 1-month free trial so you can start your creative learning journey today. As always, we're gonna have spoilers here. I'll say when they're coming, but this is the type of show that is constantly setting you up with a thread so that it can just subvert it later. Though I definitely pegged and guessed a handful of things in advance. Either way, spoilers coming, but we're just gonna start off like the general premise and set up the characters that we're working with. So yeah, as mentioned, the story picks up pretty quickly with Pia being shown a video of her bloody brother holding up a sign that says he abuses women, and that he'll be killed once the video reaches 5 million views, which only gets spurred on more when another video pops up saying that he's responsible for the death of a woman. And that is a very interesting premise, because the one thing that's gonna get people like hunting down a video to click on a bunch is creating some kind of insane stake like that. Either because you don't think it's real, or you think it's some kind of marketing ploy for something, or maybe you want to be a part of a movement and you think he's guilty so he deserves it, or you're just one of those people who has like a sick fascination with wanting to be involved in someone's death. But they do make sure to explain why they couldn't just get the video pulled immediately. It has to do with where it was hosted, so like there's no reason to get all uppity about that. So I was just really excited to get pulled into this web of online mystery and like social media backing craziness. But then it feels like they squandered that element like pretty fast in terms of like the forefront of the information we're getting. A lot of online elements end up getting mentioned or introduced that could have been really interesting, like doxing and hate brigades and online tracking. But it all just kind of feels like it's happening in the background, but we'll get there. A good mystery. Now, there are a couple of factors that tend to just be universally known as what would make like a good mystery or like thriller that has a twist. But I also think that there's different types that are effective for different types of viewers. In terms of like suspense, you've got the classic Hitchcock, like if there's a bomb under the table, like tell people that there's a bomb under the table and you're now enhancing that level of suspense. But when it comes to twists, I think there's just like that universal standard that you want to introduce something that surprises viewers, but when you go back and think about what you just watched, or if you watch it again, you'll start picking out the little pieces that build into this like crazy reveal. I also don't think it's inherently bad to be able to guess where a story is going as you're watching, as long as the story's being told well and it's not the result of like poor writing and you feel that the characters are being dumb about something obvious. Great examples of these types of thrillers include things like The Sixth Sense, Psycho, Seven, Memento, The Prestige, movies that reward you for watching and paying attention, rather than just dumping you with some kind of out of left field Hail Mary. An example of that type of play that is not necessarily a good show, but is very addicting to watch would be Pretty Little Liars, where A is constantly changing, information collides, and it feels like the showrunners are just making it up as they go along to milk it for as much as they can. Super fun to watch, just to watch whatever dramatic nightmare they come up with next, but I would never watch that show trying to like actively piece together things in super logical ways, because they have shown time and time again that they are willing to just change who A is at the drop of a hat to keep the show going. But that's okay, because the show isn't trying to reward you in that way. It is focusing more on the dramatics and like the interpersonal relationships with these characters. It's a teen drama, I know what I'm getting into. And Clickbait seems to fall somewhere in the middle of that. There's actually a fair amount of threads throughout that you can pick up on that give you hints as to different aspects of what's happening. Each episode is titled after a different person involved in the story, so I'd probably avoid looking through those because it will kind of like spoil things that are coming. But I actually like this because while we're getting our central narrative, we also get these side stories with different characters involved with what's happening. Issue being is that some of the characters are so annoying that it almost makes you want to stop watching the show because the episode is focused on them. I am looking at you, the reporter. And I feel like the last episode was really stupid. Not like the big reveal of what happened, but just everything that falls out in that episode. Either way, this is a show that provided viewers with some threads throughout to piece together aspects, but then still wanted to be able to come in with that like boom reveal. So not only will I be weaving through how the show dropped little pieces of information for people to follow while still trying to subvert audience expectations, but also how they crafted a show that left people feeling like they had to click next episode even if they don't think what they're watching is particularly good. So before we dive into the story and how it was told, let's establish our key characters. Obviously, Nick Brewer, kidnapped man, alleged woman abuser, and killer. His sister Pia, not Tia, Pia, Nick's wife Sophie, his two kids, Ethan and Kai, and of course the detective Roshan Amiri. Shockingly sensitive dude, doesn't always seem super thorough in his investigative skills, but he's nice. Then the secondary regular characters would be Nick's friend and co-worker Matt, Sophie's mom and Nick's mom, and this stupid reporter. Let's hop in. We're officially going spoiler town because every single episode is trying to leave you with some big cliffhangers, so if you have any interest in watching this show, I would probably just go watch that and come back, because like I'm just going to be weaving through how they hinted things along the way, and if you thought this was stupid, maybe just watch Mayor of Easttown. Episode 1 is called The Sister, so obviously it's focusing on Pia, who ends up with a very close connection to the case because the night before Nick went missing, she matched with one of the detectives on the case who was using the fake name Woody. Should cops lie about who they are on dating apps? Okay, whatever. When it kicks off, nobody really knows who would want to do this to Nick or really believes what's being said. By all accounts, he's a stand-up guy, super kind, great father and husband, didn't have much of a temper, and no real track record with iffy behavior. We all know that doesn't really mean much when you're talking to the person who's like closest to the individual involved, but the leads were pretty dry. We don't know what women he's allegedly abused, and there's no apparent murdered woman that could be easily connected to him. The only luck they seem to have is that a bunch of people online are trying to identify the location the video was shot in, and the show even comments that civilians can help solve cases in this way. But the dark side of that isn't really mentioned. A lot of online people have gotten involved in very serious cases and been so terribly wrong, big one being Reddit and the Boston bomber, that they actually managed to figure out that the videos were being shot in the back of a specific brand of delivery truck. So they find it and the episode ends, leaving you wondering what they're gonna see when they open it up. Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be an alive Nick Brewer sitting there, but like, is he going to be gone? Is he going to be dead? Is there going to be some kind of other horrific scene setting you up for something else? Either way, you're clicking to the next episode, which is the Sheriff Woody. I mean the detective. And by the end of this episode, they found the body. Mostly thanks to an app that civilians were using to check off already searched areas, and not due to anything like the police did directly, but it was less of like a helpful search that people were doing and more of a like, hey, let's see if we can find the dead woman abuser from the viral video. Like apparently the title of this show is all wrong. That wasn't clickbait at all. They were very serious about him dying after the video got 5 million views. Because they keep it extra dramatic, like they figure out where the truck is like right after the video hits 5 million. And even after finding this truck, they somehow don't find any evidence on it at all. And the only lead they have is from security footage of this guy and Nick getting into an altercation at a bar. And they don't know who it is, and for some reason don't ask the wife until they start searching her socials at the end of the episode and see a picture of the two of them together. And that's how the episode ends. So now you're hooked on to the next one to find out what happened here. It seemed like the happy couple might have been having some issues that could have been Nick's fault, but now it seems like it was the wife's fault. And they do reveal that she cheated on him, but let's be real here. If you cheated on your husband and told him about it and decided you guys were gonna work through it, you would delete any pictures that you had with the person you cheated with. But I guess that's kind of what we're going over in episode 3, The Wife. This episode shittily tries to set up that Curtis might have been the one who kidnapped and killed Nick. And I didn't really buy that for a lot of reasons. For one, we're only 3 episodes in, and 2, the really big one here is that whatever happened to Nick seemed like very personal. It was the result of something that happened to you directly or somebody that you love, not just something you do because your affair partner decided to stay with her husband. But then we get an extra layer here when it seems like Nick might have also cheated on her. This woman, Emma, says that she and Nick were having an affair for months, but he was using the name Danny. So Sophie gets to this memorial service carrying the belief that her husband cheated on her, while everyone else knows that she likely cheated on him. But then they find out that his dating profile had been active since 2018, so apparently Nick was a serial cheater for years before his wife did anything. And that's how this episode ends, leading you to wonder how much of that Nick persona was a lie and what he was getting up to in his spare time that no one noticed. This episode also tried to throw in a little bit of misleading bait to make it seem like Nick might have been doing something with a student because Matt here was deflecting a student from passing on information to Sophie. But again, since we're only 3 episodes in, I really don't think Nick did anything with a student. My only thought here was that Matt was the one messing with students and then somehow managed to like flip it on Nick, which is kind of close, not really, but kind of. We're in episode 4, The Mistress. That's what I mean by like, don't look at the titles ahead, otherwise you would have known right away that there was an alleged mistress involved. And I pegged what was happening here instantly. It's not revealed until later in the show, but everything feels weird with how Emma processes information and how we're shown it. It has that kind of like airy sound where it doesn't seem real. She never introduced him to any of her friends, and she just seems off in general. But the whole episode just really tries to make her seem like she's not a reliable narrator. Like at one point she like sees Nick on her bed in the hotel. Like I get that that could have just been like a random thing, but I'm supposed to be getting the impression that she actually feels like she saw him, but no, she couldn't have. Which just makes me want to say that you don't need to make it seem like somebody's having like a full hallucinatory break just to have them be delusional about an online relationship. But because everything seems off with her, but that she was definitely talking to Nick or someone who knew a lot of information about Nick, this is where I started to think catfish. Because other than her, no woman has come forward about actively seeing Nick from one of these dating sites. Nobody actually met him in person.
I had imagined that we would be sisters. That's so sad.
Then someone like runs her off the road after calling in a threat. I'm gonna be honest, at first I thought she imagined or made up the entire thing for attention and then just like drove herself off the road, but like no, it was legit. We'll get there. Which just further put me in the headspace of like whoever ran Emma off the road would have to be someone who knew she existed, like the person who was catfishing as Nick because it was never actually him. Give me a real estate agent because I'm Sherlock Holmes. No, not good? Okay. Threatening Emma out of town because you didn't want her to reveal more information to the police is one thing, but running her off the road is fucking stupid. Which is what I mean when I say the elements of the show were just stupid. But going under the assumption that it was him with all these accounts and it was him talking to multiple women, that is motive for a scorned ex or loved one of a scorned ex to take action against him. So you think, okay, at this point, she's just gonna head back home, which she does, but not before granting an exclusive interview to the reporter she talked to earlier this same episode. Which brings us to episode 5, The Reporter, aka the worst episode of this entire fucking show. I hate this man. So we're following the reporter, and you guys know, I turn up for gay, but not this gay. I don't need to see the sleaze's tender moments. He's so much of a sleaze that he gets cut from his own story for pretending to be a food delivery person and just walking into the brewer house. Good, you little shit stain. Anyways, because Emma gave him an exclusive interview, they know that Nick was apparently talking to multiple women on a variety of accounts, and they managed to find one only to discover that this woman killed herself. So this guy thinks it's a good idea to break into the deceased brother's home and steal her phone. Like, I get that this is his job, but like, this is like a murder investigation and you didn't bring that information to the police. Thankfully, his boyfriend is horrified and dips for a bit, like, good for you, sweetie, you are clearly too good for him. But the messages reveal that whoever was talking to this girl ended things off pretty cruelly and implied that they didn't care if she killed herself. Now, one of the dumb things about this episode is that for some reason, Sarah was using a fake name, even though she was actively looking for like a serious long-term relationship, so there would have been no need for that. It just seemed like something they added in to give these guys more like investigative work to do. So this one ends off with the cliffhanger of the family finding out that Nick apparently was egging this poor girl on to kill herself, and then she did, leaving us with a final shot of the deceased's brother. Someone whose job is specifically internet-based. He is a content moderator. I think we have our killer, which gets you to click onto episode 6, The Brother. Issue being that there is still 3 episodes left, including this one, so he is not the final piece to this puzzle. So we get a bit of background info on him, and he's kind of weird and like monitors his sister's laptop feed, but he felt like he needed to do it because she wasn't doing mentally well. I really hope that it wasn't because he was like weirdly obsessed with her in some way. I think it was like genuinely for her well-being, but still like not appropriate. And they were super close, so if he believed that someone egged her on to kill herself, I can see why he'd want to take extreme action against that person, which is what happened. He and his very dumb friend Daryl here kidnapped Nick, and at the last second, Daryl comes up with a plan to make it go viral. So this is the episode I feel like things really went off the rail. I really enjoyed watching this episode, but this was the one where so many people just had me being like, what? Main thing being is that these people seem way too dumb to have kidnapped somebody in broad daylight without leaving any trace or getting caught. They are very dumb and continue to be dumb. The detectives will go on to let Simon get into his own car after they blatantly see him with a suitcase after telling him not to leave town. But then instead of just trying to lose them while he's in his car, he tries to run away from them. Daryl dumbfuck here pulls a gun on Pia and threatens to kill her in front of witnesses.
Call the police! I'll fucking kill you!
Like, dude, why wouldn't you just run away when you realize she recognized you? Like, what's the play here? You gonna kill the whole family? So they obviously get them into custody. They own up to kidnapping him and thinking that he was the one talking to his sister, but then Simon said he let Nick go when he realized he was telling the truth about those images being photoshopped and that somebody was likely catfishing him, openly saying that he got the wrong guy.
I made a mistake.
I got the wrong guy.
The cops just think he's trying to save his own ass, but we got that insider information from while they were still in the truck, so like we know. And Pia also believes him because her and Nick walked in on their father after he committed suicide when they were kids, and it like traumatized them for life, so Nick would never encourage someone else to do that. So who killed Nick? Well, I would presume that it would be the catfish. Nick seems to have a general idea of who might have revealed this information and is probably the same person involved with trying to run Emma off the road because yes, that actually happened. Then we cut back to Ethan, one of Nick's son who's been talking to someone anonymous the entire duration of the show, and it's definitely implied that this is likely the catfish trying to keep a tab on the situation. Which brings us to episode 7, The Son. And despite all better judgment, they actually had me bamboozled here. I genuinely thought he was talking to like the killer catfisher. But no, it's just an anxiety-ridden teenage girl. But the two of them together realize that as of now, the only person who actually claims to have met Nick in person from a dating app was Emma. Sarah Brewer and the other woman they confirmed as having talked to him never saw him in person. So if they can get Emma to fess up, that would probably be enough to force the cops to reopen the investigation. All they know is that whoever's doing this is someone who had personal information about Nick's marital problems, which not even Pia knew. So Ethan and Allison here bank on the fact that Emma would be willing to talk and tell the truth to Nick's son, because in her mind, that would have been her future stepson. And at first she's really not biting, but when he ends up playing an audio recording of what her dad sounds like, she realizes that she never actually talked to him because it wasn't the voice she heard in those calls.
Oops, I accidentally created a false reality.
So instead of going right to the police, Allison's like, hey, send me some of the pictures that this catfish account sent to these women and I'll try to figure out what the metadata is so we can figure out where they were made and sent from. Before we get into that, this episode also confirms that Matt was in fact the one being weird with students. And the only reason why Nick was seen arguing with one of the girls was because he was trying to convince her not to quit the team before he found out what happened. So it seems like they're setting up Matt to be the catfish, but since we still have an entire episode and a quarter left, I definitely don't think it's him. This is just an unrelated creeper story. Give me that show and Matt's comeuppance, honestly. But this is where I pegged it. Pia goes into Matt's office after talking to the student he harassed, and Don here unlocks his computer that's loaded with pictures of Nick. But it's just the way that Don starts reacting to it.
I don't understand. Why does he have pictures of Nick?
I was like, oh my God, that sounds so fake. Oh my God, it's her. This lady ran right up to them at the memorial.
It's not uncommon for a perpetrator to attend a function like this.
Who else would have a ton of private information about Nick? An administrative assistant who was responsible for setting up all of his accounts, someone that he would talk to every day. And boy golly, I was right. But when Kai realizes that what Allison sent Ethan was directions to the catfish and potential murderer's house, he decides to go bash in a kneecap until the door opens opens and it's just sweet old Dawn. God, someone had herself a nice little catfishing enterprise going on. Which brings us to episode 8, The Answer. And now we go into full dumb zone. Not just this teenager being dumb for thinking he can go bust some kneecaps of a potential murderer, but just the events are dumb in general. And I don't mean the Dawn reveal. The main reason Dawn started doing all this catfishing stuff is because she felt like her husband was neglecting her because he was spending all of his time building model towns for his train sets. And she just wanted to feel like someone who was wanted. And I get that. She basically married Sheldon Cooper. I can see why catfishing would be exciting. But when Kai gets there, he thinks that it was a prank that Ethan sent him on because he's a child and stupid, and he actually verbalizes that out loud, which is when Dawn should have been like, okay, dear, have a great night. We'll see you later, sweetie. But no, they invite him in and then drive him out to a farm to kill him. Because that makes sense. That's how you avoid getting in trouble for catfishing a series of women, resulting in the death of one and likely killing a man. They literally know that Ethan had info that led Kai right to them, so killing him isn't gonna solve anything because that means other people know where he went. This is so stupid. People this dumb would not have been able to conceal a murder for this long and cover their digital footprints. But then it gets even more dumb when we get the flashback to Dawn setting up Nick's accounts for him at the school and syncing it to his phone, where we see a dating app that he's been using pop up. So Nick was on a dating app back in 2018 before his wife cheated, and then just kind of stopped answering people, so Dawn just takes his login information and takes over the conversations, and Nick never notices? This would have made way more sense if this was just a hobby that she'd had for years, and having access to all of Nick's stuff just made for a really convenient, believable catfish, or if maybe she got the idea because she saw a really old dating app on his phone that he wasn't using anymore. They spent so much time being like, oh no, Nick would never. Just to be like, oh no, Nick almost did. It's so weird. I don't think his family ever finds out about this, which is great, but holy shit. And if it couldn't get any worse, instead of going to the cops or his family or literally anywhere's public after Simon let him go, he goes to Dawn's place, where of course her husband just sees him yelling at her and kills him. A brutal end to this sick game, and so dumb.
What are you gonna do, Ed?
I'm not going to prison, Dawn.
Well, sir, I think that's out of your hands now that you've concealed a murder and plan to kill that person's son. I'll make a lot of concessions for this show. I'll accept the women never FaceTiming someone that they're talking to online because the ones he seemed to have made the strongest connections with were the ones who were willing to believe the lie. Emma literally made herself believe that they'd met in person. I'll give them neither of these women being weirded out that Dawn photoshopped fake pictures of them together at the beach. I'll even give them Sarah Burton using a fake name on a dating app even though she was looking for genuine connections. But everything else in this episode, holy shit. Up until that point, they literally could have maintained that they had nothing to do with Nick's death and that she was just catfishing and they'd have a better chance of concealing their involvement than killing his son to conceal their involvement. It just seemed like a really dumb way to inject some action into this final episode. And they didn't care that it was dumb because surprise, you've already watched the entire show. It's also revealed that Ed was in fact the one that tried to run Emma off the road, which as previously established was stupid. You'll still be like, oh shit, are they gonna kill the kid? Who's gonna die? But you may also be rolling your eyes the entire time you're having those thoughts. Also, Ed is just pretty twisted to be instantly okay with killing a kid. He was almost gleeful about it. He was also just super eager to kill Nick just to conceal his wife's activity. But it's cool, they get his ass in the end. Leaving Dawn with nothing but some intense charges, I would imagine. GG. And it just ends with them going to Nick's official funeral. There was a bit of closure, but in some ways it probably felt like even more of a senseless death because the person who did kill him wasn't even someone who thought he'd caused extreme harm. So the Dawn reveal, for those who feel like it came completely out of left field, yes, but also there were some hints. For one, catfishing or people lying about who they are online was established when the detective used a fake name on a dating site. 2, the detective mentioned that the person behind the situation involving Nick might be at the memorial, and Dawn ran right over to them the second they walked in. 3, if it wasn't Nick talking to these women, it had to be someone who had intimate knowledge of his life. Now the third one seems to point to Matt, which is when the show starts introducing the ways it tells you who it isn't. For one, this is a show that every time you think you have something pegged because the show is leading you that way, they will pull the rug out from under you. So Matt acting sketchy at the memorial was way too early in the show for him to be involved. He was too obvious, and this isn't the type of guy that would need to use a catfish on a dating profile. At one point I thought that he was the one messing with the girls on the team, which he was, but that something happened and then one of the dads got involved and then he managed to deflect it to Nick because of of misinformation, but the online aspect of how the videos were posted just didn't scream Gen X/Boomer Dad. So who other than Matt would have intimate knowledge if it wasn't Pia or Sophie? The administration woman at his job, someone he'd see every single day. And that's pretty much the show. It's definitely one that's designed to be binged. It's got solid performances from most of the cast, solid mystery. Every episode ends on a cliffhanger that keeps you hitting that next button, even if you think something is stupid. So for that kind of show, I think they nailed it. I just think the last episode was dumb. Not that the Dawn stuff was dumb. I think that was actually pretty good. It's just how they build everything out from that reveal. Ed was dumb. I wish they did a little bit more with the online premise of someone being killed after 5 million views, because that all got dropped like 2 episodes in until it picked up a little bit later with the Simon episode. But overall, not the worst way to spend 6 hours relaxing or doing chores. But let me know what you think down below. For me, there was a bunch of little threads that made me think about how there'd be better ways to do a show like this. So like, hey, maybe I'll make a shitty binge watch Netflix show one day. Hire me, Netflix. I will also lead act for a discount. But that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters, with a special thank you to Nihilistic Butter for being my newest Jedi Knight level patron. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. Check out my other social medias linked down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.